Genesis 1. And for some strange reason, I'm beginning to, not strange, but I'm further convinced that we can never exhaust Revelation. It doesn't matter how much you try to get out of it. God, His Spirit is without limit. Therefore, He can always take you right back into it and give you more food, more food. The only time we think we would have exhausted anything is when in human minds we think that we know it all. But just be open tonight and let the Lord speak to us. Genesis 1, verse number 20. God said, let the waters swarm or be filled or abound with an abundance of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the face of the firmament or the space of the heavens. Keep going. So God created great sea creatures and every living thing that moves, or God made them, with which the waters abounded, according to their kind, every winged bird according to its kind, and God saw what? Good. Now remember that the original translation does not have "it was." From the first day of the creation of the heavens and the earth, from day one, when God divided light from darkness, He saw that good. Now, early right here, we have to establish something to free our minds from what we've been programmed to think all our life. If God divided light from darkness, God called land out of water. God has moon and the sun. Now He has creatures coming out of the waters, and they're all different. And everything that He's seeing has the word good attached to it. Our church program is to think, and normal human beings think, that good means some form of behavior. But what behavior was darkness exhibiting? Can we find a behavior? No. So everything from precedence from day one, good was never tied to behavior. It was tied to God's feeling or God's expression about what He saw. So when we get to man, it is not a measure of behavior. It's about what God saw. When you get to the creatures, verse number 24 now, God said, let the earth bring forth what? Okay, the word living creatures is the word nephesh, or soul. Bring forth nephesh, bring forth living things. Let the earth bring forth living things. Or soul. The word nephesh in Hebrew means life. It means passion. Speaks to desires. You have those? Okay. So earth produce living souls. The word nephesh actually is also the word fish, creatures, normal creatures. So what God has made a request to happen from the ground is the ground can produce things with life, things with passion, things with desires. Now, since this is a working day, some of you are tired, so let me talk to you right here. I love nature. My degree is not in theology, it's in environmental sciences. I love nature because nature teaches me more than anything else. And when I watch National Geographic sometimes, I see, like in the Nile or in the Serengeti in Africa, the zebras and the wildebeest, they have thirst when it's dry. And the crocs live in the water. God made the beast with desires, with passion, with appetite, nephesh. they have a drive for certain things. It's instinctive. They can't choose regarding drinking. Now, the wildebeests know that there are crocodiles in the water. But there's a desire. I'm thirsty. My desire breeds conflict because I know that in this water is an animal that could kill me. But if I don't go to the water, there's a thirst that will also kill me. And naturally, wildebeests are not suicidal. So they would cautiously approach that which they know will bring them death. Now, you're not a wildebeest, so you would not receive what I just said to you. The Lord said, blessed are those, talking to 12 people, who hunger, desire, and thirst after what? Okay, for you'll be filled. Let me help you now. Whenever you are a filled believer, you're a dead one. The Spirit of God could never fill you if you still have human passions driving you. What you want doesn't count when you're full. And so, okay, but what gets us filled? God draws us closer and closer to that which kills us, which is Himself. And once you hunger and thirst after God, more and more of your earthly passions begin to fade. The fight is the earthly passions sometimes feel too good to be released, although I desire righteousness. And I thirst after it. God, I know that the closer I get to you, I will die. But I still like this that I do. It still feels good. And I know that you're a God who sets standards. You're the Lord who has standards set for me to live. But if I get close enough to you, I have to say goodbye to my passions. But the first thing we have to ask ourselves is, who created the passion for God? He did it to us. Who gave you the ability to love things that could even kill you? Satan has nothing to infuse in you, so don't come with the devil talk. Tonight is not the devil, maybe do anything in here. So God has brought out of the ground souls, living things, all with passion, desires, appetite, some of which lead to their death, and they have no control over it. Then He says, let us make man now in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion. Then it says in verse 27, the Lord created man. The word created, I asked the technician to find for us, because it's an important word for you to see. Look at the word bara. What does it mean? Have you ever thought about that? The first human being is introduced to us by the word choice. Whose choice? So if you don't like law, I can teach you much in this church. You always hear me say the word precedence. It's what's done first. The first man, the word created, is the word choose. How now in 2015 we have the doctrine that we're the one who choose Him? When our introduction is by His selection. He didn't choose donkey. He didn't choose goat. He didn't choose dog. All of them could have potentially been chosen, but God chose man in His image according to His likeness. So because of the choosing, God now has to put something in man that no other beast would have had. He breathed ruach into this person. Because as my chosen vessel, I have to empower you to be above everyone else. Oh, glory to God. The fact that God has chosen you it puts you in a position above the normal person. Don't ask me why you're so favored, because God has selected you. God, by his divine power, has selected you to be above average. If ever you're average, you're not chosen. If you're below average, you're not chosen. Kings are never average people. God has chosen us and branded us with favor. And that brand of favor makes us above average. It's not arrogance, it's confidence in who he is. You can't be chosen by the Creator, by the sovereign God, and always fearful of things and people. Adam, I choose you, which is to create in my image. That's the first step. And then, now, you have to have dominion over all these things. But when God made the birds and stuff, he told them to multiply. Man wasn't the first person told to multiply. So he said, multiply. Fill the earth. So God is allowing animals to multiply, watch this carefully, because he knows that once I choose, he has to have multiplied creatures to rule. All right, let me help you further. A sign of your choosing, of God choosing you, he always multiplies your influence. Tuesday is a special night in this church. A sign that you are favored by God is that your influence is multiplied. If you have no influence, you're not favored. You may be following, but you're not favored. Favored people are people who are influential. Okay, this is my son. I'm pleased with him. And on the Mount of Transfiguration, he said, hear him. Favor brings influence. And the moment you become influential and people have to look up to you, of course there'll be competition now. And there'll be a challenge now. Because man was formed from where? This ABC class, but help me. Where was he formed from? The dust of what? Okay, where did God call the creatures from? Go back to 24, help the church tonight. You guys need to stop eating before you come to church or something, man. Where you brought them from? Let the earth bring forth what? Okay, good. Was the serpent a living creature? Where did he come from? Okay, all right. So the serpent comes from the earth. Man is formed from the same place the serpent comes from. Genesis 3:1, the serpent is described as more cunning, more subtle than every other beast of the field that God made. But he has the same components in terms of chemistry as the man. So all of us have the same elements of nature. But you are given an instruction to rule over me. The only difference between me and you is God's choosing of you. It doesn't mean I don't have the ability to know who you are. Because for me to rule you, you have to know who I am in reference to authority. The serpent, though, is crafty. He's cunning, but he's from the ground. He has desires. And once you are skillful and crafty and you have desires and God says submit, you'll always contend. Because the hardest thing to do is to submit knowing that you're powerful. Let me take this off now. I know you don't have to ask. Some of you, I don't have to ask you how you feel about yourself. You know how great you are. But yet the Father says, submit to that person. And you sit in your wisdom knowing all of us came from the same ground. All of us got the same flesh. We all got desires. Why must I have to answer to you when you ask me any question? You don't know that I'm more cunning than everybody else in this field. So when the serpent looks around, no creature compares to him. So he steps out of the zone of the creature of the ground, and he begins to engage in conversation with the one who's supposed to rule him. Church, people don't like this kind of talk. Because we're just anointed to step outside of our boundary of limitation, irrespective of what God has said about us in reference to submission. What is he talking about, Pastor Rich? Okay, if I tell you, come and preach every Sunday, you'll object to it. Because you tell me I'm not a preacher. Apostle, not me. God ain't coming for that. Then why you have so many opinions about a preacher who's preaching? If you're not called to be here, then don't have opinions about who's here. Because the only thing that qualifies you to have an opinion about here is if you qualify to show better up here. If you know you're not called for something and you're not anointed for something, then you simply leave it alone. You hear how they're quiet? All right. Okay, since you want me to talk church, let's talk basketball or something. You are of football. You saw it hurt me bad. At the NFL playoffs, 3 seconds, and you didn't give my boy the ball to run? If you do 1, 2, 3, that's how the game finish. And I'm looking at this coach like, are you insane? How could you got 3 seconds and you throwing the ball just to make a point? So I'm mad, but I'm not the coach. I'm not the player. I am in my house having all the plays in my head, knowing nothing about football. But just being entertained by it, but I'm now an expert because I don't like what you did. We're not talking church, because church you just get upset. So let's talk outside of the church, because you just offended already. So let's go outside church door there. No, they like church talk. Let me keep it outside of the zone. The American relay team, I remember it. These guys, I knew that year they could beat Jamaica. You not to wonder, and don't be a hater. They were just better then. Tyson Gay and my boy. What's his name? Justin Gatlin. I knew it, they had it. And you dropped the baton at the last. You're leading the race. And you drop the baton. The next time you come around, you step 1 step out of the takeover zone and you're disqualified. I am in the house fuming. Not because I don't like Jamaica. Because I love good competition. As a former athlete. So I'm mad. You're professional. You don't know where the line is. There's a mark on the track. Don't go over that without the baton in your hand. And I'm upset. Put me on the track. And say, now you run within the takeover zone and see what position I'll come in. You don't like church, I'm keeping it outside of church all the time. The revelation come to you where you sitting. We cannot be so specialized, yet ineffective. You can't be so good, but when they put you in the position, you are underperforming. Because God has a way of promoting those who criticize to show them how much they lack. So, Mr. Serpent, you're so smart that you could have opinions about what God said. But that's a setup, because his purpose in conflict. He gave the serpent more craftiness than any other beast. God, he said the serpent was more subtle than any of the beasts of the ground that God had made. God made him like that. There is purpose in that conflict. Because the donkey couldn't do it. The sheep couldn't do it. The turtle too slow to do it. He waited, and God made the perfect creature with enough sense, with enough skill, with enough craft to bring man into questioning, or woman to question. I am not like God. Maybe. Probably. Possibly. I could just take a bite. It would hurt me. What we shouldn't miss tonight is that after the man consumed, the eyes are opened. And the Bible says they realized they were both naked. What did they do next? Let me help you. What did they do? Thank you. There's a good church. They made fig leaves and they covered themselves. Okay. Though you're kind of far from your neighbor, you may have to shout to tell them. When you sin, you can't fix it. And you can't cover yourself either. But that's a conflict. Okay. The man and woman would never kill the beast to make a sacrifice as a substitution for their sin, because they know nothing of the principle of substitution. God said the plants are for food. They don't eat leaves. So they broke the part that they don't consume and cover themselves with it and said, we're safe because at least we're not naked. No, you're not naked, but you're still exposed because an animal isn't covering you. There was no blood sacrifice, so God could still know where you're at. When you sin, the first step is to try to cover you. You are incapable of covering yourself in sin. Come on, James, and talk to the church. If you sin, confess your faults to one another. Which one are you in here? You see the danger we face now? Because we know the principle, but we fear the application. The Lord shows us from the first step, precedence again, their first action is not to call on the one who gave the instruction and said we did wrong. Their first step is to cover, thinking that he will not recognize what we did. Because when their eyes are open, God isn't present. Okay, so sometimes when you realize what you've done, the instructor is not there. And the feeling is, I've escaped with this one, and it's just, okay then, maybe he'll catch me tomorrow. Because when you do that now, you promise yourself, I'll never eat again. Too late. Because the instruction wasn't, if you eat 3 times. So they have covered themselves, but yet they're exposed. I'm coming down a dangerous road right here, church. Because what I realize, flesh loves to sin, but flesh does not like exposure. Flesh loves to have desires fulfilled, but flesh does not want to have itself exposed. Because shame is never spirit. Your flesh feels shame. Flesh doesn't like that. So flesh has a system worked out. I'll do it, and then I'll cover. I'll take some more, then I'll cover. I'll do it in an environment where nobody could see, and then I'll come back and act as if I didn't do it. Because flesh always has a conflict with spirit. We go to Galatians in a minute. And so man already shows us a system. Cover. And hope that when he shows up, he wouldn't see that we're naked. But what God did to them was ask a question. Where are you? The question doesn't say, why are you covered? The question doesn't say, what have you done? The question is, where are you? All you have to say, over here. Oh, but he equipped you with something called conscience now. So you heard the voice of the instructor and you anticipate that I'll be called into accountability. So before you ask me, God, what I did, I'll tell you where I am covered. I heard your voice. And I hid myself. Now where are you? I heard your voice. Okay, you didn't hide when I told you not to eat from the tree. Why are you hiding now? So the place where you answered me from has already told me what you've done. You don't understand what I just said. So let me help you further then. All right. Pastor Woodley? Hi, Apostle. I'm in Guyana calling you now. Where are you, son? It's Sunday. I'm home. The fact that you answered me where you are home, I know you're out of place. Because you're supposed to be here. Yeah. So you say, well, I didn't feel too good today. Okay, fine. I know it happens. Sickness comes. It's okay. Pastor Woodley. Hi, Apostle. Where are you, son? Now it's Tuesday. I'm in Boston. Boston? You go to see the doctor? No, I just decided to take a drive out. It's Tuesday evening at this time. You can't be found again. Sunday? Woods. Where are you, son? I'm in New York. I don't need to ask him the next week where he is. The responses he's given to me told me he's no longer here. So once you look around the congregation, certain faces are not seen, don't ask where they're at. Because you already know that they are out of position based on their absence. It means then that they are, naturally, if the person who gave the instruction to be here says, "Where are you?" the first thing you get from them is an excuse. Excuses sometimes indicate where you are spiritually. Because you wouldn't want to come with confession first. So you'll bring excuse first. So he said, "Now, did you eat the tree I told you not to eat?" "Yes, this woman here, she made me do it." "Woman, what have you done?" "The serpent made me do it." And then the Lord said to the serpent, "You are now cursed above everybody else. On your belly, you slither, and you'll eat dust." Where did he come from? You go back to a level where you'll consume where you came from. You'll survive on where you came from. God. Ooh. When you're blessed, God takes you from where you came from. And he changes your diet. The serpent was made to eat all, Genesis chapter 1:30, all of them were made to eat plants. The fruit of the plants. But now you're cursed. You're going to feed on the ground. A sign that you're functioning in a curse. Not God curse you. The times when your prosperity is hindered. Your progression is stalled. Those are all curses. Cursing doesn't mean that you're not spiritual. Behaviors sometimes lead to a stalling of your progression because God has to teach some of us with brakes on. So what happens to some people? God has given us a mandate that we just don't understand we should follow. So what does he do? Pulls the reins, and before you know it, you're not lost, you're not in hell, but you find yourself in a lower place, consuming what you came from. What does he mean? Just check your behavior when you're out of line. See the things that you once hated, how much pleasure they bring you when you're out of line. See this, when you up here on the mountain, you know everybody going to hell. How is it that you now find yourself in the same place and don't think you're going somewhere different? Passionate people who think they have it all right normally knows where everybody else goes until things begin to go all wrong. Serpent, you're going back. Eat that. To the man he said, the ground is now what? Cursed because of you. Okay? What did God tell the serpent he'll eat? Now God is saying, serpent, okay, here. Your meal, your menu, the menu for you is cursed. The ground is cursed for your sake. So every time you put your tongue out, you are touching the curse. But that's what you eat. Every time you extend your tongue, what do you use to talk? Okay. So everything that comes, every time you extend what you use for the conversation, you touch the curse, please. He said, the ground will now yield for you, Adam, but you have to sweat to get it. We're going somewhere gradually. Now Cain and Abel comes up, and of course, they came to offer, and Cain kills the brother. Now, God tells Cain something else. He said, you are cursed. Watch this carefully now. The ground will no longer produce anything for you. What did he tell Cain's father, though? The ground is cursed because of you. The ground will produce thorns and thistles. By the sweat of your face you'll eat. Now to Cain, the son, he says, you are cursed above the ground. Don't miss the text. Now, he said the ground will not give you anything. Adam is cursed, or the ground is cursed because of man. It will produce, but you have to sweat to get it. The sun is cursed above the ground that's cursed. So the ground will never give you anything. Even if you sweat, you can't eat. What is the apostle saying? Some curses are better than others. And I'll show you it right now. All right. Man, the ground is cursed. You ain't cursed. So you'll still have something producing for you. Watch this. Because as long as God does not curse you, there will still be production. You may have to work harder, but there'll still be productivity. But the day the curse comes on the person, everything is shut off. And Cain knew it. That if the ground is cursed, then I'm dead. Why will men want to kill me? How do you eat? Where you eat from? You see this fast food society, won't understand what I just asked you. Because you think you put in synthetic food in the microwave. They had that then. All of us had to eat from the ground. So if God curses you above the ground, all of us will starve. Sometimes people will hate you because of what you have caused to come upon them. This is responsibility night right here. This night is night of responsibility. As fathers and as parents, we have to be also cautious that there are times our children could be angry at us. Fathers, raise your children in the admonition of God. Don't provoke them to anger. Why would they be enraged? Because, Daddy, you should teach me the principles to find God, or for God to discover me. But if you don't teach me the principles and I walk in rebellion, stubbornness, disobedience, and I'm lost, I'll blame you. And then you come for me to pray for your child because he's rebellious. He's not rebellious. He's mad at you because you failed to direct him to God. This is responsibility night. And so, Cain is told, you are cursed above the ground. The ground is not going to produce for you, boy. The ground will not give you anything. She will not yield anything unto you. You would make an effort to work. What was Cain doing? What was his occupation? He was tilling the ground. So Cain had good produce. His hands were good, they call it in farming. He got results. Now God said, now you're cursed. You would do the same thing, but never get the same results. But watch church now, because some of you got stuck in Genesis. Let me bring you to church. We know that if I sing this song, God will move. If I dance like this, God will move. If I find this text and I preach it, the church will shout. But when God shuts you down, the same thing that worked last week, you can't find it to work this week. Because you think that the systems work. That's called religion. Religion is when we found one thing that worked and think it worked forever. But there are times when God says move and you refuse to move. God says shift and you don't want to shift. God says stop, you don't want to stop. He said, okay then, since you think you know how to please me, work it. And you find sometimes churches sing for 2 hours. Why do you think they try to sing for so long? It's not they love God. They try their best. So what do you find in the churches now, elder? You find a song that comes on the scene. And that song moves everybody. And then after 2 months, the song goes off the market. You are no different from the world. You guys could handle this tonight. You could take this. I give myself away. Everybody followed to give myself away. What happened now? So songs of the Spirit can fade in their effect. There's nothing wrong with the singer, don't miss the point. What is nefesh? Life, desires, emotions, passion. The song is new if it feels good. If the beat feels right, then you could work it. But emotions are not eternal. And if you want to know if you're doing something that we call worship emotionally, watch how long it lasts. So, nefesh, animals have got passion. Man is taken out of the ground, he has passion. 1 Corinthians call him man of the earth, passion. Now let's go to Galatians and see what that says. Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5 tonight. This is a chapter that scares the church. Scares the life out of the church people. Scared the life out of me. Galatians 5. Galatians 5. We could take it from verse number 13. Brothers, what are we called to? The other word for liberty is freedom. What has God called us to? Don't whisper it. What did God call you to? Call means summons. God knew that you were bound and he called you to freedom. First thing, if ever you are in an environment where you want to restrict people, that is not a sign that God has called. So C.O.R.E Ministries International, you have to watch yourself. We cannot be trapped in a mode whereby there are restrictions when it comes to God calling. The Spirit of God, wherever he is, there is liberty. There's freedom. Whenever you bring in the word restriction, you're not talking spirit. God can't do that. God wouldn't do that. God doesn't work like that. God don't do that. God don't move that. The minute you do that, you are eliminating spirit. Because against spirit, there is no law. So if there's no law for spirit, how you can tell me what God could and can't do? What's church folk? Why does he preach and shout like that? God don't make people shout like that. The minute you start telling me what God could do, you are applying law to spirit. And there is no law to spirit. God has called us into freedom. But what freedom from the call does, it eliminates human control. He said, only do not use the freedom as what? Opportunity for the flesh. Because when God calls you to freedom, you see your desires. You're honestly where you at. Why do you... Okay, church. Have you noticed, not all of you, let me talk for me. I noticed that when I was called out of the world, called into the kingdom, I thought that every bad thing I ever did was over. But I later discovered that the moment God called me into liberty, he then gave me power to see what is still inside. I may not like what I see inside of me, but I'm free to see it. Because liberty shows you exactly where you are. So what church leaders do is they create bondages to keep the image of the church right. If you do that, I'll put you to sit down for 5 months. If you do that, I'll silence you from preaching for 10 years. If you do that. And the moment we do all these human restrictions, we take away spirit. And I heard the deacon ask me, Nigel, you're honestly saying that you don't have restrictions in place? You're telling me that you could just have people be free? What if the preacher started doing any old thing? I say, if any old thing is in them, I won't see it. Because I won't create rules to keep you covered. I want to see what you got inside of you. Because I can only know who you really are when you feel free to be who you really are. So wherever the Spirit of God is, he gives freedom. And freedom sometimes exposes sin. So the advice is, don't use it as an opportunity for flesh. What does flesh do? I'll show you in a second. But through love, you have to serve one another. Keep going. For all the law is fulfilled in one word. You shall do what? Love your neighbor as you love yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, that's how beasts operate. Flesh. In the flesh, out of the ground, you have the same tendency. In the absence of spirit, we are no different from brute beasts. You'll be consumed by each other. This is not the devil that will consume you. We have got the ability to destroy each other. As deep as we look and think we are, we have got the ability to destroy each other. As much as he says he loves you at the wedding, he has the ability to devour you. As much as she loves you and can't live without you, she has the ability to devour you. All it takes is the absence of application. I must stay in the Spirit. The day you get out of the Spirit, you have the ability to destroy somebody you say you love. But we must walk in the Spirit, verse 16. Go to verse 16 for me. And what will happen? You shall not fulfill. Okay. For the flesh lusts against the Spirit. It's Galatians 5 now. And the Spirit against the flesh. Pay attention to this one. And these are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things that you wish. You can't read that too fast. The flesh is against the Spirit, and the Spirit is against the flesh. Okay? Watch what's happening. They are contrary to one another, so that you do not do the things you wish. Listen to me carefully, church. If I'm in the flesh, I have a desire to do things that are spiritual, but I can't. It's not that I have no desire. That's why we get upset with people. You come into church every Sunday and you can't do better. I want to do better, but I'm trapped in flesh. I could see desire. I could see what I want, but I'm trapped in flesh. I can't do what I want to do. In like manner, if I'm trapped in spirit, I could see the woman. I could see the alcohol. I could see the parties. I could see all that my flesh wants, but I'm trapped and I can't do it. You never, as a believer, have this. You can't fool me and you can't fool you. Either or. We cannot continue to escape and avoid the truth. That's the underlying theme that God sent me from Guyana back to this church with. This is honesty time. Honesty time right here. So if I'm in the flesh, I could have spiritual desires, but I can't fulfill them. If I'm in the Spirit, I could have carnal desires, but I would not fulfill them. What we try our best to do is lie and say, I don't have any carnal desires. That's a lie. Don't tell me you don't have them. You're just spiritual enough to not yield to them. Because the works of the flesh are made manifest. Oh, God. Which are these? Come. That's 19, I think it is. 19. Oh. If I'm in the flesh, look. Adultery, what? Okay then, what happens with us, Pastor Reg and Minister JJ? Because I'm in the church and there's expectation of my behavior. I have fleshly desires. I want to have sex, but I'm not married. I want it because it's flesh. I have desires. I'm not spiritual. I know the church rules. That if I'm not married, I'm not supposed to do that. But I'm in the flesh. What do? Follow me, cameraman. We come, baby, come. My wife in here, you could act the part pretty well. What do? I get you and bring you to the altar. Climb the stairs with me just so they could see what's happening now. So I marry her. What this? I marry her because I know the church's expectation and I have a conscience. So to avoid the conflict, I get married. I did not deal with flesh. I simply created an escape mechanism to deal with my conscience, but my flesh is still living. So I pose with you as my wife. Okay then, so my conscience is free. You can't tell me I committed fornication because I'm married, but you still got a flesh problem. Oh, so first year is good. Second year is wonderful. Third year is great. because I have learned I am now not like you. I didn't commit fornication like you. I didn't do it like you, but I have not dealt with flesh. And then the whole church, as they say in Guyana, your jaw drop. How could he do this? I thought he was a man of God. No, he's a man of God. He never dealt with his flesh. Come, go back down now, baby. Come. Let me help the church to freedom tonight. Let me tell you when you know you've really dealt with flesh. When I am not married, I used to commit fornication all the time. Watch this. I am now knowledgeable of the fact that I shouldn't do this. I am only over flesh. When I say to you, I don't want to get married, and I will still not do it. That's when you know you've overcome it. You don't find an escape route. Oh, I know where you're coming with. But didn't Corinthians say it's better to marry than to burn? Burn with lust. It didn't just say burn. If you walk this aisle just to escape lust, you are avoiding passions of the flesh. And it will come up in your marriage. And if you do it to avoid it, it will come up back in your marriage. If ever you get married to avoid flesh, it will pop back up. Because it doesn't stop with adultery. It doesn't stop with fornication. It has wrath in it. It has anger in it. And can I help you to tell you where the anger comes from sometimes? When the flesh starts saying, but you could get the other sister over there. I stuck with you. And she looks better than you. You're not mad at her. You're mad because she didn't cook. You're mad because you can't get that one over there. Rage starts coming up in the house. You're angry because you can't get what you like. Because you've never dealt with your flesh. And why you didn't deal with the flesh? Because the pastor couldn't sit with you eye to eye and say, deal with what is inside of you. You're demanding a wedding date without having a crucifixion date. When will you die to you? You're not qualified to marry if you can't die to you. Why must you be married in flesh? And then suddenly you think Sunday after the honeymoon you come back, you suddenly become spiritual? No, you're fooling yourself. Just give it time. Because the old man always pays a visit. Where are we? How much of flesh have we dealt with? Show them the rest. Because I know all there was to it. Idolatry, which is not always worshiping false idols. You sometime are the idol. What I want. Give me what I want. Some of you are married to an idol and don't even know it. Because it's always must be what he wants. Or what she wants. Please me. I don't like. So hold on. Every vacation we go on is what you want. Let's go to Mexico. And your husband said, let's go to Japan. No. And he goes to Mexico. All right? You wouldn't say next year, let's go to Japan. I want to go to Jamaica. He has to go to Jamaica. You marry a puppet. You want a husband like me? Do you know I am? I tell you, no, baby, no, girlfriend. This ain't going like that. Because if your mate is true, they will always seek to help you to kill flesh. It would hurt and get you upset, but you need to get over that. I love girlfriend for that. She helped me to kill it all the time. Hatred. Look. Conflict, contentions, flesh. So you escape the fornication demon, because I never there's a demon. Church got all kind of demon. You escape the fornication demon with a ring, but the contention pop up around the corner. Jealousy, flesh. Nobody can talk to your husband. I'm about to step on some of your corner in this church tonight. You could get mad all you want. I don't mind. You ever smile at your man, you upset. When you met him, he had all these friends before you showed up on the scene. Now he can't talk to anybody, you upset. He in the church and can't talk to a sister, you mad. That's flesh. But you got, oh, thank you then. Let me say it. Vice versa. Thank you. Some man worse than a woman. Because they mad. They watching this and the corner here. Why she can talk to him for so long? You mean tell me she can't stop talking to him now? This is brotherhood. Why call me brother and sister if I can't talk to you? We're nervous about everything in the church. And don't let the man be handsome. Some men so insecure. You don't like how you look in the mirror, so you say, oh God, he look better than me. And my wife talking to him, maybe she'll want him. Well, go to the gym. Let me look around, let me see if I talk around. None of you ain't got your belly big like that. And you don't want to lose it, but you're bad when she talk to somebody who's get a trip. Get fit. And get confidence. Don't be shaky. We gotta get this. I told you this is get real season in this church. Every Saturday you go in this salon, fix that. Long hair, short hair, cut it, lengthen it, stick it, stitch it, all kind of stuff just because you have no confidence in you. You're looking at your husband friends and say, God, I see this girl at his office today. Oh my God, that's his secretary. I'm in trouble. So you're trying your best to catch up with the secretary. You on Facebook, not them in here, because they ain't like that. You do everything to keep up with somebody you consider to be a threat. And the woman don't even want your husband. Jealousy. Outbursts of wrath. You never saw that in church people, huh? Yes. Keep going. Let them see what we're dealing with tonight. Selfish ambitions. All about me. Dissension. Heresies. Which is false doctrine, by the way. Teachings that aren't biblical. The Bible says God help those who help themselves. It never said that. So we dropping scripture all over the place, just finding it to work for me. Envy, murders, it's in the tail. Look. Drunkenness, wild parties, that's what revelry is. Wild parties, that's revelry. And you don't have an excuse for it. Don't tell me it's because this is after all, we're all saved, so we can have a saved people party. If you save, how the kind of music entertaining you? Ooh. They ain't like the part, boy. He said, I told you beforehand that those who do what? Practice them. Do you see that? Do you see that? Why church people don't understand what that says? If I did it once, I have not practiced it. And you can't tell me how long the practice is for. That's God's determination. Just tell me you got a rule. You fall once, you fall twice. Third time, you're out of church. But God knows exactly how long it takes to get certain things out of us. He said, if you practice these things, you will not inherit the kingdom. You may be in church, but you'll not inherit kingdom, which is God ruling in the life of a believer. Give me verse number 23 or 24. That tells us about the fruit of the Spirit. 24. And those who are whose? What have they done? Good. I kept telling you, crucifixion is necessary for godliness. If you cannot crucify flesh, kingdom is around you. Don't come telling me how many years you've been saved. Tell me how long you've been in the church and how long your behavior was not like that of old. It doesn't mean kingdom is in you. You could change your conduct without changing your king. You can change your conduct without changing your king. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I used to drink 5 bottles of liquor and I've stopped. Does that mean I'm a kingdom citizen? Does it? So don't tell me your behavior means you're saved. Where is the king? Does he rule in you? Are you dead to passions, not behaviors? Because sometimes you restrain yourself from doing because of human expectations. You know that people don't expect you to do it, so you wouldn't do it, but that doesn't mean you don't have the desire. Have we crucified the things that we know do not bring glory to God? And every time they pop up, do we kill them? But God has a word attached to help us even when we slip in flesh or we in flesh. Grace. Oh, cut just one good, Mr. Cameraman, because core ministries may not want to hear this. Today is the 5th day of the 5th month in the year 2015. Why would he bring me all this long journey to get you to this point right now? Cain killed his brother. And Cain got a mark and favor that if anybody kills you, I'll deal with them. Nobody must touch you. Lamech is the way you say it in Hebrew. Lamech is a descendant of Cain. The word Lamech means powerful. He said to his 2 wives, somebody hurt me and I kill him. Lamech did not extend mercy. He said, a young man hurt me and I've killed him for wounding me. Okay. He said, if Cain is avenged 7 times, then I will be avenged 70 times. What does that mean? The church felt Lamech was saying that he's cursed more than Cain. He never said that. He's saying, I know my great-great-grandfather. If God could be merciful and show him grace for killing Abel, then the fact that I did not show mercy to the man who hurt me, God will be even more merciful. What scripture comes to your mind? Where sin abounds, grace what? Okay. All right, church. Evangelists? If ever sin is absent, grace is absent. How are you saved? By grace through. Why did you have to have grace applied to your salvation process? Because sin had to be present. Okay. If sin is not present, that's why God doesn't need grace. Because he has no sin. We need grace. Why? Okay. So be careful, church, when you begin to pray prayers like, God, please show me more grace. I always say you must be cautious while you talk. Because for God to show you more grace, what has to increase? You don't need grace if you don't have sin. But you're asking for more grace in your prayer. And then you're asking yourself, why am I doing this? And then the conflict is, why am I not dying when I do it? What did you ask for? Religious folk don't like me talk this way because they feel I'm telling you go ahead and sin. I'm telling you the principle. In the absence of sin, you don't need grace. And in the absence of grace, you're dead. So Lamech knows that God, if he could rescue Cain, he could apply even greater mercy to me. Okay. Now, if ever your memory is shallow and you don't remember that you've had sin, you will never remember grace is available. What is he saying, Reg? What happens, Gina, is if I did something today and grace covered me in it, and then for some reason I don't remember what I did because some of you like play, you forget what you did, then obviously You'll not be appreciative of the gracious act of God. So God does not take away our memory of what we've done. You praying and asking God to take it away because you're married and you don't want to remember a boy you had before your husband. It's not going away. Because if it goes away, remember you had passion for the person. Is your day quiet? Okay. Grace is a crazy thing. Because grace only has value in the face of sin. And you don't like the memory of what you did. Even if you can't remember who you did it with, you remember that you did it. And if you can't remember how it felt, you remember that you did it. If you can't remember how long it lasted, you remember that you did it. And every time you have the memory of what you did, grace says, I'm here. That's true grace. True grace is when you feel guiltless in the presence of a memory of sin. What is he saying to me? If you remember what you did 10 years ago and you still feel as if God will kill you, you don't know grace. Grace is the only thing that will make you sit in the presence of God and you and God know what you did, but you don't feel as if he's going to kill you. Because God knows that you're not passionate about the sin. You're passionate about the mercy. Oh yes. That's when you know that you've got God for real. When you could love the mercies of God. When you could love the steadfast love of God. When you could love the fact that I know I'm sitting beside you by grace only. Which is covering or favor in spite of wrong. I pray this church never gets to a place where we erase the memory of where we came from. Because once you erase the memory of where you came from, you'll beat people when they come with sin in here. You'll beat them down. You'll never remember that you were once walking that very road. You'll crucify those who came to live. You'll kill them. When all God is saying is, Galatians 6, if you see a brother overtaken in a fault, those who are spiritual, not a whole church, find the spiritual ones to restore that brother in the spirit of meekness, considering yourself, lest you also be what? Tempted. You know why so many preachers end up in sin? I just told you why. Because instead of restoring people in meekness, they kill them. They crucify them because their memory didn't shallow now. You just born in this chair as a pastor. As parents, when your children do wrong, apply the same principle. Restore them. Husband and wife, apply the same principle. Who's ever asked God to make them like him? Don't lie in here. Show me your hand. Let's go home. Who? Okay, they got some honest people. The men scared. Men hand like that. Men never want to move their hand. Who was honestly ever asked God to make them more like him? Okay. Is God gracious? So if you want to be like God, it means that you have to have every attribute of God tested. Am I right? So if I'm married to a girlfriend and I ask God to make me more like him, then grace has to be tested. She has to do me wrong. And I have to be willing, like God, to treat her in a gracious manner. Am I? Don't look at me now. Look inside of you and ask yourself, if you're married, if my spouse does the worst thing that I think they could do, am I prepared to show them grace? If the answer is no, you're not like God. Do you realize there was no amen? There was no ouch. There was no There was no huh. I used to tell girlfriend when we just got married, I was young, I was zealous. I was just young and crazy. If I even think that you got another man, I'm done with you. I never said if you did it. If I just think you did it, I'm finished with you. I tell her that, I'm done with you. So we don't have to have an argument. The day I come home and you see me packing my bag, know that I had a thought that you did something, and I'm just gone. I leave you the house, car, everything, and I go my way. Because I ain't going to argue and ask you if you did it. Because you lie. So let me just free me and go my way in peace. And I used to say that for years, and then one day Holy Spirit said, yeah, you leave her if you think she does it. And I was convinced I'd leave her, yes. Then he said, if a man looks at a woman and desires to have her in his head, he did it. He said, would you go home and tell her who you lost it after? No. Oh, so you will leave her for the thought of the act, but she lives with you for hiding the thought of what you're doing. Theo, my rule went out the window. I don't leave you even if I think, but if I'm not leaving you, it got so bad that I say, even if you do it, I'll forgive you. Why would I say I'll forgive you? Because I got memory. Oh. We got to be mindful whenever you, let me tell you when you're tempted to act outside the character of God. When you start feeling in your mind that you have the right to do certain things to people when they do wrong, start take a check. Start checking yourself. Because you don't have that power. You do not. The power we have is the ministry of Christ, which is to be reconciled, put people back together, restore them to the rightful place, ensure they're functional. Yes. So tonight is not like a Sunday shouting. Tonight is for us to understand we're called to a higher level of functionality in reference to honesty and being gracious to one another. It's carnal to kill when people hurt you. It's carnal to seek to do harm. And church, people don't like to do harm because you can't do it physically. But you wish people would never progress. You hope the ministry would fail. You just wish that God never uses them. We are strange beings. I've been in church where people get mad that a sister is lifting her hands and thanking God. Look at her putting her hand up. That's what we want to do. That's the conversation after church. You see the one how he raising hand and talking in tongues today. You think that could fool me? And so hold on. It's only when you say the person is spiritual that's when they get to that place with God. We got to free ourselves of that in this house. Amen, somebody. Stand up, let's go home.